Welcome to the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation was the document that outlined the government that we set up to help us through the Revolution. We needed to have some kind of a government that would help us direct the war, so all 13 colonies were working together. It's actually our first national constitution. A constitution is merely a set of rules that says how your government is going to operate. Well, the Articles of Confederation were a set of rules, but they were a very poor set of rules. Remember that the colonists were still very afraid of giving too much power to a central or federal government in case that government took too much power or became too much like a king. How did the Articles of Confederation work? Well, they established a government organized around a Congress. Remember, Congress is where our representatives meet. Congress is our representatives, those people that we elect to speak for us in our government. Altogether, we have 535 people that have been elected to represent us in our Congress. But back at the time of the American Revolution, there were only 13 states. So each state was given one vote. Didn't matter how big, how small, how much population they had, or how little population they had. Every state got exactly one vote. And when they tried to pass a law, it took 9 of the 13 states to agree. Now, I don't know about you, but I have trouble getting 4 people to agree on the same movie. But they still had to get at least 9 people with 13 different agendas all to agree to pass these laws. Not an easy job at any time. Congress was given the power to declare war, make peace, make treaties, coin and borrow money. Now remember, to coin money is the physical act of making that money. Create post offices. We had committees of correspondence during the American Revolution. Their job was to write letters to all the other colonies, letting them know what England was doing in our colony. And that was the only way, aside from the newspaper or word of mouth, that they could transfer information and let the other colonies know what was going on. So we needed a post office in order to be able to transmit that mail from colony to colony. Couriers were quite expensive. Congress could admit new states beyond the original 13, and they could create an army and a navy so that they could protect the entire country. Congress was also told it could not tax. Now, governments don't make money. They don't create a product that they can sell. They don't run a business that brings in income. Governments spend money. They don't make money. And so the government gets its money from the people by taxing them. Well, under the Articles of Confederation, the states could tax their citizens, but the federal government could not. So how were they supposed to pay for a war if they couldn't raise any money? Congress could not interfere with trade between individual states. So there was no way to regulate and make sure that those trades were fair or that they were even being done with the same money, because every state had their own money. Under the Articles of Confederation, there was no one person who was in charge of the new government. It was like being in a team, and you sit down to go to work, and everybody goes, "What are we supposed to do?" "I don't know." "What are you supposed to do?" "I don't know." And so you sit there and you waste time because nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing. There's no one in charge to guide you. We did have a president underneath the Articles of Confederation, but it was more of a figurehead type job, and it changed every year. They had no real power. There was no executive to carry out the laws that were passed by Congress. Congress's job is to pass laws, make laws. The executive branch, the president's, is to enforce those laws. It does no good to pass a law if you have no way of enforcing it. The lack of a leader led to much confusion amongst the colonies, and it made it much more difficult for us to be effective when we were fighting our war. The Articles did create a loose friendship between the 13 colonies. We were not united, not by any means, but we were friends working together for a common goal, to defeat England. This was enough for us to win the war for independence. And after fighting so many years together, it was even enough to keep the states together as one country. But we were not operating as one country. We were operating as 13 individual countries that just happened to all be in the United States. And that made it very, very difficult. So much of the power was left with the states that it was very difficult to work as a country. Without an executive, without the power to tax, without the ability to regulate trade, Congress just could not function effectively. And we had no justice. There was no judicial branch. There was no court system. So how are you going to solve disputes? It had to go back to the local states to solve. If it was a dispute between one state and another, there was nothing in place to help you with that. The solution was to fix the Articles of Confederation. Let's call a convention with the delegates from all the states, and let's revise and fix the Articles of Confederation. Most of the people that came had no intention of writing a new document. But there were a few that had it on their minds to start over from scratch and create an entirely new document, putting the power where they thought it should be, with the federal government. Those people convinced everybody else that we needed to do this. And the results of this convention, the Constitution of the United States of America, the document that we have been living under ever since then, the document that we used to set up our government, and the document that we still use and depend upon to run our country. And there you have a little bit of information about the Articles of Confederation.